Life had become a loop. Same mornings, same evenings, same silence filling the space between two people who used to be in love. I was married. Legally, emotionally, at least on paper. But what we had didn't feel like marriage anymore. It felt like a habit we couldn't break, like a script we were both tired of reading. The distance between us hadn't started with a fight. It never does. It started with little things, forgotten compliments, missed conversations, fading touches. He would come home late, mumble something about work, then retreat to his corner of the house. We ate at the same table, slept in the same bed, but lived in different worlds. I kept trying. 4 months. I'd dress up for dinners he wouldn't notice, ask him how his day was and listen to one-word answers. I'd reach for him at night and feel him flinch slightly, like he wasn't used to the contact anymore. One night, I laid there beside him, listening to the sound of his breath, steady and indifferent, and realized, he was gone. Not physically. But whatever part of him used to love me had disappeared. Or maybe it had been fading slowly and I just hadn't wanted to see it. I asked him once, gently, if he still loved me. He didn't answer. Just sighed and said, "You're overthinking again." That hurt more than a no. Something inside me snapped, not out of anger, but exhaustion. I couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't keep pretending that if I tried harder, things would go back to what they were. The truth was, we weren't us anymore. We were just two strangers carrying a memory that didn't fit either of us now. So I packed a bag. Just the essentials. I didn't slam doors. I didn't shout. I just left a note on the kitchen counter, "I need space to think. I'll be gone a while." And then I drove. No plan, no destination. Just away. I drove until the city disappeared behind me and the roads narrowed into winding strips between hills and trees. The air felt different. Lighter. Quieter. As if the world was holding its breath. On the third day of aimless travel, I ended up in a coastal town I'd never heard of. It wasn't marked by any big signs or tourist spots. It just appeared, tucked between the cliffs and the sea, old and sun-soaked and still. I parked the car and started walking. The streets were narrow and stone-paved. Window shutters creaked softly in the breeze. The salty air clung to everything, and there was music coming faintly from somewhere, a violin, slow and haunting. I turned a corner and found a small square. Empty, except for 3 things, a fountain in the middle, a person sitting on its edge with a sketchbook in their lap, and another leaning against a nearby post, camera slung around their neck. The one with the sketchbook looked up first. Sharp eyes, messy hair, ink-stained fingers. Their pencil paused mid-stroke. The one with the camera didn't look at me at all, not at first, but I could feel their presence like a pull. I should have kept walking. I didn't. "You're not from here," the sketcher said, voice calm, like it wasn't a question. "No," I replied. The one with the camera finally looked up. And when they did, I felt like I'd walked into a memory that wasn't mine. "Walk with us," they said. There was no smile, no invitation in their tone. Just certainty. I hesitated only for a second before nodding. I didn't know why I followed them, but I did. We walked in silence through back streets that wound like a labyrinth. Past shuttered shops, climbing staircases carved into stone, until the town faded behind us and the path turned into a trail along the cliffs. Eventually, we came to a small, weather-beaten cabin tucked into the rock face. It looked abandoned, wood gray and split, windows fogged and cracked. One of them opened the door like they'd done it 100 times before. No words. Just a look back at me. I stepped inside. The floor creaked. The air smelled like sea salt and wood smoke. Inside was a mismatched mess, books piled on chairs, candles melted into the floorboards, paintings covering every inch of the walls. It wasn't empty. It was alive with the kind of chaos that feels like home to someone. They didn't offer introductions. Didn't ask for mine. We just settled in. The sketcher took their usual spot by the window, pencil dancing again. The one with the camera poured 3 glasses of red wine from a dusty bottle they found on a shelf. I took mine wordlessly. Sat on the floor. Crossed my legs. No one asked why I was there. No one questioned what I was running from. It didn't matter. We talked, eventually. About art. About cities we missed. About music that made us cry for no reason. The fire crackled. The sea roared outside. And slowly, the distance between us began to collapse, not physically, not yet. But in the way our eyes held longer, the way our laughs came easier. It didn't feel like the beginning of anything. It felt like the middle of something I'd forgotten I was part of. The fire dimmed, and the shadows in the cabin thickened. Time stretched. The wine was long gone. Candles had been lit, some new, some melted down to stubs, and the soft golden light flickered across their faces like they were made of something unreal. The artist had taken their sketchbook aside, placed it gently on a shelf, and now sat on the floor beside me, their knees brushing mine. The one with the camera leaned against the edge of the window, watching us both. Not with hunger. Not even desire. With something quieter. Something deeper. There was no sudden shift. No obvious signal. It was the kind of change that happened slowly, like a wave gathering beneath the surface. I felt the artist's fingers graze the back of my hand. Lightly. Almost like they were asking a question. I didn't pull away. Instead, I turned my palm upward. And they laced their fingers through mine like it had always been that way. The one with the camera crossed the room and knelt beside me. Still silent. Still watching. Then their hand came to rest gently on my leg. No urgency. Just presence. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Something in my chest had cracked open, and I didn't even know what was inside. They didn't touch each other. Just me. One brushing hair from my cheek, the other trailing fingertips down my arm. I had never been touched like that before, so carefully, so attentively, as if they were exploring something sacred, not sexual. Their closeness wasn't overwhelming. It was grounding. The artist leaned in, their lips brushing my shoulder first, then the curve of my neck. My skin burned where they touched, not from heat, but from the way it made me feel. Seen. Wanted. Remembered. The one with the camera kissed me then, soft, slow, with a hesitation that felt like reverence. Their lips tasted like wine and something sweeter, something aching. I kissed them back without thinking, pulled by a need I hadn't even realized was there. Clothes disappeared piece by piece, like pages falling from an old book. No rush. Just one moment at a time, unfolding with permission and wonder. The floor was warm beneath us, the fire casting flickering shadows on bare skin. Their hands moved across me like they were learning a language, pausing, listening, answering with touch instead of sound. They never rushed, never pulled too far, never pushed too hard. And then we were tangled, bodies close, breath shared, every inch of me held between the two of them. It wasn't messy or wild. It was quiet. Intimate. As if we had all been waiting for this exact moment without ever knowing it. There were times that night when I forgot who was touching me. When fingers and lips and breath blurred into one body, one heartbeat. We moved like we had always known each other. Like we had all lived lifetimes apart and finally come home. It wasn't about pleasure, even though there was plenty of it. It was about being seen. Being opened. Being understood without a single word. No jealousy. No competition. Just giving. And receiving. Freely. We stayed on the floor long after it ended. Wrapped in sheets. My head rested on one chest, my legs tangled with another. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. I remember closing my eyes and thinking, this is what it feels like to be fully alive. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel lost. I just felt, here. When I opened my eyes, the fire was out. Morning light spilled through the cracked window, soft and gold. The sheets were still wrapped around me, warm from where we'd lain together. But the space beside me was empty. I sat up slowly. The cabin was silent. The artist's sketchbook was gone. So was the camera. At first, I thought they were just outside, maybe getting air or watching the ocean. But something in me already knew. They had left. Quietly. Like a dream fading before you can hold on to it. I stood and walked around the space. The candles were burned down to wax puddles. Our clothes had been folded neatly on the chair. Mine on top. Then I saw it. On the little wooden table by the window, there were two things. A sketch, charcoal lines, smudged but perfect. My face, eyes closed, lips slightly parted, captured in the stillness of sleep. And next to it, a photo. The three of us. Laughing. My head tilted back, one of them kissing my cheek, the other with their arm draped around my waist. I don't even remember the picture being taken. But it was real. We were real. Beneath the photo was a note. Just one line. We weren't meant to stay. But we were meant to find you. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at it. There was no sadness. Just stillness. Peace. Some moments are so powerful, they don't need to last. They just need to happen. I left the cabin a few hours later. Walked back down the cliffside path. The town looked the same, but I didn't. I carried something else now, something I hadn't felt in years. I went home a week later. Not to pick up where I left off, but to finally let go. I spoke to my husband honestly for the first time in years. We both cried. We both knew. It was over. And that was okay. That night in the cabin, what happened, what it awakened in me, it wasn't about rebellion. It wasn't even about sex. It was about being fully, completely alive. It was about breaking open the cage I had quietly built around myself. It was about connection. Raw. Temporary. Beautiful. Sometimes, the most unexpected experiences are the ones that change us forever. Not because they last, but because they teach us how to feel again. Have you ever had a moment like that? A moment you didn't plan, didn't expect, but one that stayed with you long after it ended? Share it in the comments. You never know who needs to hear your story. And if this one made you feel something, if it made you remember, or imagine, or hope, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that go deeper than words. Because life isn't about what we plan. It's about what we're open enough to experience. If you are asked, had I betrayed my husband, or is the moment worth taking? Like and subscribe for more thrilling stories.